Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today we're getting into brand awareness, especially for all those small businesses out there in Australia.
Yeah, Australia, gotta love it.
We've got a great blog post to guide us today. It's from Not Technology Systems, an Aussie web services company.
Oh, nice. So they should know what they're talking about.
It's called Boost Your Brand Awareness, Effective Strategies for Increased Visibility.
Catchy.
I think we're going to find some really interesting stuff here.
Like what? Give me a teaser.
Well, we'll be talking about why telling a good story can really help you attract customers, or how something like sponsoring a fun run can be a good move for your brand.
Interesting. Okay, I'm hooked. What do we got first?
What really struck me is that this blog post starts by talking about the unique challenges facing small businesses in Australia. They really seem to get that what works in other places might not always work down under.
Yeah, that's important, especially when you're talking about something as, I don't know, personal as building a brand.
It really makes you think about how much local context matters. So before we get into the how-to, let's talk about why brand awareness is so important.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. Why is it so important?
Well, now Technology Systems compares it to being the life of the party. But honestly, that feels a little simplistic to me.
I get what you mean. It's not just about, being the loudest one in the room.
Exactly.
It's about being the one people remember, the one they, actively look for. Think about it. When you need a plumber, you're probably not just going to pick a random name out of the phone book, are you?
No way, not a chance.
You're going to go with someone you've heard of, someone with a reputation, right?
Right.
Well, that's brand awareness in action. And in a market like Australia, which is so competitive, that familiarity can make a huge difference.
That's a much better way to put it than just being the life of the party.
Yeah.
So how do we build that familiarity? How do we become that name people remember? The blog post really emphasizes storytelling.
Storytelling, huh?
Which, seems to be a big trend in marketing these days. It does.
But what does that actually look like for small businesses in Australia?
Well, I guess that's where that famous Aussie love of good yarn comes in. It's more than just entertainment here. It's about connecting with people. On a personal level,
Yeah.
Australians, they value authenticity. So sharing your brand's story, the real deal, the struggles, the wins, even the funny mishaps, it makes you relatable.
So instead of just shouting about your product from the rooftops, you're kind of inviting people into your journey.
Exactly. It's like, come along to the ride, see how we got here.
I like that approach. The post suggests weaving this story into everything. Your website, your social media, even press releases. It's like creating a brand narrative that runs through all your communications.
It's the golden thread.
Yeah, the golden thread. But where do you even begin?
Well, a good starting point is asking yourself, why did I start this business? What problem are you solving? What makes you different? Your story should, capture that essence.
And connect with what your audience cares about. Yeah. For example, if you're, let's say, a sustainable clothing brand, you might highlight your ethical sourcing practices.
Or your commitment to reducing waste.
Exactly. Things like that really resonate with people, especially these days.
Yeah, and Australia seems to be, very attuned to those kinds of values.
Very much so, yeah.
But I can see how this could be tricky. How do you tell your story without it sounding like a sales pitch?
Right. You don't want to be too salesy. The key is to be genuine, keep it real, focus on that human element, share your passion, your struggles, and your wins in a way that feels authentic. Think about those cafes you see that proudly display those, established in 2010 signs.
Yeah.
They're not just stating a fact, are they? It's more like they're saying, hey, we've been here through thick and thin, serving this community.
It's a story in itself.
It really is.
It's interesting how even small details can contribute to your brand story. Okay, so storytelling is about building that emotional connection, right? But what about reaching those people who haven't even heard of you yet?
Good point.
That's where SEO comes in, right?
Bingo. SEO is like the foundation of your online presence. It makes sure that when people search for what you offer, they actually find you. And this blog post, they really call out local SEO as a must for Aussie businesses.
I get the basic idea of SEO, but I'll admit I get a little lost in the technical stuff.
Yeah, it can get a bit techy.
Can you break down local SEO in a way that, even I can understand?
Okay, so imagine you're, a yoga studio in Byron Bay.
Okay, I'm imagining it.
You want to be the top result when someone searches like Yoga Byron Bay, right?
Right.
Local SEO makes that happen.
So you're basically optimizing your website to attract customers in your specific area.
You got it. It's not just about being found online. It's about being found by the right people.
The people in your backyard.
Exactly. And that involves, using location-based keywords on your website, making sure your Google My Business listing is up to date.
Oh, yeah, that Google My Business thing, it's important.
It is. And even getting listed in those online directories, It's all about leaving those digital breadcrumbs that lead local customers right to your door.
It's a smart strategy. I'm starting to get it.
Yeah.
So you got your story and your SEO sorted. What's next?
Well, then it's time to jump into the world of social media, right?
Right.
The blog post really stresses the importance of being where your audience is.
Which is easier said than done these days. There are just so many platforms.
I know. It can get overwhelming.
Where do you even start?
Well, the beauty of social media is that you can tailor your approach to your specific audience. This blog highlights Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, the usual suspects, all super popular in Australia.
But like you said, the key is knowing where your target audience hangs out.
Right. A younger crowd might be on TikTok, while professionals might be more into LinkedIn.
It's about understanding your audience and their habits.
You got it.
So you do your research, you figure out where they are, and then what? Do you just start posting, pictures of your products?
I mean, that's a start, but it's not really going to grab anyone's attention these days, is it?
Not really, no.
The real magic happens when you combine those visuals with the storytelling we talked about earlier.
Ah, okay, so it all ties together.
It does. Think behind-the-scenes glimpses, customer testimonials, maybe some interactive content like polls, Stuff that gets people involved.
Make it interesting.
Exactly.
The blog post mentions paid campaigns, too. I'm curious about those. What role do they play for a small business, especially on social media?
Well, paid campaigns can be really helpful for reaching a wider audience or promoting specific products, imagine you're a small bakery in Adelaide launching a new line of gluten-free pastries.
Okay, I'm with you.
A paid campaign on Facebook or Instagram targeted at people in Adelaide who are, into gluten-free stuff could really help you get the word out. Reach those potential customers who might not find you otherwise.
So it's about amplifying your message, making sure the right people are seeing it.
Exactly.
But isn't that expensive?
It can be, but the good news is you can control your budget. Start small, see how it goes, and scale up if it's working. And the targeting options you have on these platforms are incredible. You can get really specific with who you're trying to reach.
So it's about making smart choices, finding what works for your budget and your goals. This is really making me realize how much goes into building brand awareness. And we've only just scratched the surface.
We have. And there's still so much to unpack. From teaming up with other businesses to really harnessing the power of email. There are just tons of ways to connect with your audience and build that all-important awareness.
Well, we've got a lot more ground to cover, so let's take a quick break and we'll come back to explore those other strategies. All right, welcome back. We're diving deep into brand awareness for small businesses in Australia. And we've already talked about crafting your story, SEO, social media, all that good stuff. Now, the Now Technology Systems blog post brings up collaborations and partnerships.
Makes sense, right?
Totally. Why go it alone if you can join forces?
Exactly. It's all about, leveraging each other's strengths.
And tapping into new audiences.
Yeah, exactly. A blog post talks about local events, sponsorships, even co-hosting workshops.
All good ideas.
But what's interesting to me is they really emphasize thinking outside the box. How so? Well, your partner doesn't have to be a direct competitor or even in the same industry,
So instead of partnering with, the business next door.
Right. You might find a more unexpected match.
A business that complements what you offer.
Exactly. Say you run a boutique fitness studio in Sydney. Instead of teaming up with another fitness-related business.
Right.
You could partner with, a health food cafe down the street.
Or maybe a local activewear brand.
Yeah, exactly. You're reaching different audiences, but they have shared interests.
That's a smart way to expand your reach without spreading yourself too thin. And speaking of reaching the right people, the blog post also talks about email marketing.
Oh, yeah, email.
I know it sometimes feels a bit, old school in the age of social media.
I hear you.
But it can be really effective for building those direct relationships with customers.
Definitely. Think about it this way. Social media is like that town square, right? You're broadcasting to everyone.
Okay, yeah.
Email is more like a personal letter delivered right to their inbox.
It's a more direct line.
Exactly. And that can be super powerful for building those relationships.
Blog post talks about building your subscriber list and sending out newsletters,
Newsletters, yep.
updates, promotions, and of course, those brand stories we talked about.
Keep your brand top of mind.
And they really emphasize personalization
Oh, yeah. That's key these days.
because nobody wants to feel like just another number.
Exactly. Nobody wants to feel like they're getting, a mass email blast.
It's about making people feel special, seen, valued.
You got it. And that's where segmentation comes in. Dividing your email list based on, preferences.
So you're sending the right message to the right people.
Exactly. Say you're that yoga studio again. You could send a special offer for meditation classes to the people who always go to those.
Right.
And then promote your, new Vinyasa Flow series to a different group.
Okay, I see. It's about making those emails relevant.
Make them want to open them,
Keep them engaged.
Mhm.
But we also have to remember the legal stuff, right?
Oh, absolutely. The blog post reminds us about the Spam Act in Australia.
Very important.
Super important. Make sure you have those opt-in and opt-out options clearly laid out. Only send emails to people who actually, want them.
Transparency is key.
It really is. You don't want people to feel trapped.
Nobody wants to be bombarded with emails they didn't sign up for,
Exactly. And, that respect, it builds trust.
which is what it's all about.
Exactly.
All right, so we've covered storytelling, SEO, social media, collaborations, email marketing.
Wow, we're on a roll.
The blog post also mentions hosting community events. I'm really curious about this one. How does a local event translate into brand awareness?
Well, it's about putting a face to your brand, connecting with people in person.
Makes sense.
The blog post gives an example of a tech company offering free basic tech training.
Oh, cool.
Think about that for a second. It positions the company as a helpful resource, builds goodwill in the community, and creates positive associations with the brand.
I bet that's way more effective than just like a billboard or a social media ad.
I think so too. It's about creating that experience, something people remember.
But it also sounds like more work.
It does take more planning, yeah. But the rewards can be huge. And it doesn't have to be a massive event, Think about what your business can offer. Maybe it's a free workshop or sponsoring a local fun run.
Right. It's about being part of the community.
Exactly.
Which is something Australians are really good at, coming together and supporting each other.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of strategies for building brand awareness. But how do you know if they're actually working?
Good question. That's where measuring your success comes in, right?
Mm.
Right. The blog post talks about that too. It's not enough to just, try different things and hope for the best. You need to track your progress.
Absolutely. You need to see what's moving the needle. But, with all the data out there, it can be hard to know where to start.
It can be overwhelming.
It really can. The blog post emphasizes using analytics tools, to measure things like website traffic, social media engagement, all that. It's about looking at those numbers and asking yourself, are people finding my website? Are they, interacting with my content?
And ultimately, are they becoming customers?
Exactly. Are you getting those conversions? Analytics tools can give you so much insight into what's working and what's not.
So it's a process of constantly learning and adapting.
It is. Building brand awareness isn't a one-time thing. It's ongoing. You're constantly experimenting, tweaking things, and evolving with the market.
And speaking of evolving, the blog post ends with a really strong message about staying authentic and consistent.
Oh, yeah, I love that part.
It's a good reminder that building a brand is about more than just tactics. It's about creating something real that reflects your values.
And resonates with your audience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They wrap it up by saying it takes, a touch of Aussie ingenuity.
I love that.
I do too. It's so true. It's about being resourceful, adaptable, finding creative solutions.
And staying true to yourself, to your brand.
Well said.
Sure.
It's about finding those creative ways to connect with your audience, stand out from the crowd, and build something people can trust. You know that question we left off with about the unique challenges Aussie businesses face?
Yeah, about building their brand.
It really got me thinking. We've covered some great strategies in this deep dive.
We have.
But it's easy to forget that these things don't exist in a vacuum.
True.
The Australian market has its own, quirks.
It does.
Its own challenges.
Definitely.
Which can make brand building a whole different ballgame.
For sure. And I think one of the biggest challenges is just the sheer size of Australia.
It's huge.
We're talking about a country that's roughly the size of the continental U.S., Imagine trying to reach customers spread out across such a vast area.
It's mind-boggling.
It is. And it's not like those densely populated European countries where, you can practically shout across the border and reach your target market.
It's a whole different world down under.
It is. So for small businesses, especially those with, limited budgets, that geographic spread can be a real hurdle.
They can't just rely on local foot traffic or word of mouth like they might in a smaller, more concentrated market.
Exactly. So they might need to really double down on their digital marketing efforts.
Right. To bridge those geographical gaps, we talked about SEO and social media. Those become even more crucial when your customers aren't just around the corner.
Absolutely. A strong online presence is non-negotiable when you're trying to reach customers in, Perth, Darwin, Hobart, all at the same time.
And it's not just about distance, right? Australia's population is incredibly diverse.
Oh, yeah, very much so.
You've got these bustling cities, laid-back coastal towns, everything in between. Each region has its own vibe, its own culture.
And its own consumer behavior, for sure. What works in Melbourne might not fly in Cairns.
Exactly. So understanding those regional differences is key.
Tailoring your message, knowing your audience.
It's a lot to consider.
It is, but it's worth it. When you take the time to really understand your target audience, your brand is much more likely to connect.
We can't forget about the competition.
Right, the competition.
Australia has a thriving small business scene, which is awesome.
Yes.
But it also means that some industries are incredibly competitive.
Think about the cafe scene in Melbourne or fashion boutiques in Sydney.
Standing out in those markets takes more than just a good product.
You need a strong brand identity, a clear message.
Something that resonates with your audience.
Exactly. And then there's the whole thing about consumer behavior constantly changing.
Oh, yeah. Aussies are known for being early adopters.
They are. Always on the lookout for the next big thing.
So what trends are shaping brand awareness in Australia today? What do you think?
Well, the rise of e-commerce is huge. More and more Australians are shopping online, so that online presence we talked about, it's essential.
And with everyone on their phones, that experience needs to be top-notch on mobile.
For sure. Another trend is the focus on sustainability, ethical sourcing, Consumers are more aware of their impact.
Those brands that align with those values are going to have an advantage.
Absolutely. But it has to be authentic. You can't just slap a green label on something and call it a day. You have to actually walk the walk.
It's about showing that you care, genuinely.
Exactly. And it's not just what you say, but how you say it. Your tone, your style, it has to resonate with that Aussie sensibility.
Aussies are pretty down to earth. They can spot a fake from a mile away.
That's true. So keep it real, keep it simple.
It all comes back to that Aussie ingenuity we talked about.
Being resourceful, finding creative solutions.
And staying true to your vision while also being adaptable,
Adapting to the market, to your customers.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From telling your story to navigating the Australian market. It's been a great deep dive.
It has. And hopefully our listeners feel a bit more equipped to tackle their own brand building journey.
With confidence and a bit of that Aussie spirit.
Exactly.
Well, thanks for joining us, everyone.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, happy branding.